Just finished watching Weapons. First off, it's an anthology style film, meaning it's essentially 7 short films put together to create one giant overarching narrative. So for instance, we started off with Justine, then we go to Archer, then it goes to Paul, then James, and then Marcus, and then Alex. Just to give a brief rundown, an entire classroom of kids goes running out into the middle of the night, never to be seen again. Nobody knows what happened, even the teacher doesn't know what happened. It's a giant mystery, everybody's losing their minds, and we get a slice of life from each of these people as it builds this overall narrative. So we get the Justine part, she's the teacher. You sort of feel bad for her because she doesn't even know what's going on. She's constantly being blamed. She's being followed by Archer and I would assume potentially other people. It's kind of funny. She claims to be innocent and doesn't want the attention, just wants to go back to things as normal, even though they really can't. But she ends up hooking up with Paul, who is in a rough patch of his marriage, which would bring unwanted attention and does. She then acts incredibly weird, trespassing and snooping around Alex's house. Now, Alex is the kid. We'll get into that later. She's sneaking around the property, peeking through the windows, and then she goes back a second time and literally passes out in her car, and she's there all night. Now, Josh Brolin is in the movie, and he plays Archer, the father, or just one of the fathers, and his son has run off into the middle of the night. Now, this is the movie I would have wanted to see personally. Due to these events, he begins doing his own research, digging into the teacher's past, Justine, and investigating on his own. He stalks Justine at one point, figuring out her routine and what she does. He even ends up going to other families' houses to ask them for their footage of their child running off into the night from their ring cam or door cameras. He ends up triangulating a potential route to where everybody has run off to, and I would have liked to have seen his side of the story play out for probably the rest of it. You could maybe flip back and forth between him and Justine, and then give us the Alex part at the end, so we kind of know a little more about what is going on there. But like I said before, we're sort of just jumping back and forth, and we're focusing on different characters throughout the movie, and the moments all blend together, so you end up watching the same thing a few times. The same scenarios, the same events, just from a different point of view. And Josh Brolin's part ends when he gets attacked by Marcus. There's a whole part between Paul and James and how they get themselves stuck within the house. The Paul and James part is where the film kind of falls flat a little bit for me. You probably could have cut 10-15 minutes off of this film, specifically from the Paul and James part. Like I said, you essentially watched the same thing twice. It would have had better pacing. Just my opinion. So this is going to be the real spoiler heavy part. Alex is the only kid who doesn't disappear in the classroom. Near the end of the movie, it shows his life as normal, shows all the kids in the classroom, everything as it should be, before Gladys comes into the picture. Now, Gladys is related to Alex's mom, and just to give you a very quick rundown, she essentially is a witch. She uses mind control. She takes over the household, mind controlling the mother and the father, getting Alex to do all of her bidding. Alex, the kid, obviously can't do much about this because she's very powerful and does these crazy witch spells and this, that, and the fourth. So he ends up doing all of her bidding. He grabs one piece from each of the kids in the classroom, just so happened to be their name tag. This is what causes all of the kids to run out of their homes in the middle of the night. And eventually, Justine and Archer sort of team together and work together after Marcus gets possessed and attacks Justine at a gas station while Archer was following Justine. There's a lot more to the movie that I'm leaving out because it sets up quite a bit to get to that point, but just giving the basic rundown. Marcus is the principal of the school and he wants to do a wellness check on Alex as he is the only kid left in the class. Gladys won't allow that, so she ends up showing up to his house, doing a ritual on Marcus. He gets possessed, kills his lover, and then sprints directly to Justine to kill her as well. Look, at the end of the day, this was not what I was expecting. You kind of just end up watching the same thing over and over again. And by the very end of the movie, you completely lost me. It ends up becoming a goofy kind of comedy in a sense. James ends up getting possessed by Gladys the witch, and when they end up finding the house, Josh Brolin enters it and gets into an altercation with James, and he ends up throwing James around the house like 10 fucking times, and it just becomes really goofy. During all of this, Alex is able to get his hands on one of Gladys's stick witch things or whatever the fuck it is. He breaks it in half. All the kids run up out of the basement, and we get a very Scooby-Doo-esque chase scene of a group of kids chasing an old woman through a neighborhood, and it's like really goofy to the point that I'm kind of thinking like, you know, you started off the movie thriller, suspense, you had a couple jump scares here and there, you tried to do a pretty decent horror movie for the most part, slow zoom ins, the suspenseful music and everything, but then by the end you just threw it out the window and it kind of became goofy as fuck. And it gets goofy to the point where the kids are ripping Gladys apart limb by limb, and they even rip her head off at one point. So I don't know what they were going for at the end there. Maybe they didn't have a way to end it. They were like, well, we don't really know what we're doing, so we'll just do this. Regardless of all of that, can I recommend this as a theater watch? Probably not. I would wait for it to come out to streaming. It's not a bad movie by any means, but the marketing sold it as one thing, and we kind of got something completely different by the end of it. Overall, I feel like it's a decent film. It just lacks in a couple areas. I would recommend it, but I would wait for it to come to streaming.